Imagine holding a glass filled to the very brim with water. You love that water, you need it. But if you keep shaking the glass, trying to enjoy it more and more, what happens? It spills, and soon the glass is empty. Physical desire in relationships is like that water. It is beautiful, natural, and necessary, but without boundaries, the very thing meant to nourish love can end up destroying it. Today, let us explore why healthy relationships don't grow by removing limits, but by respecting them. Love is often misunderstood because we confuse it with how it feels. A feeling is a sensation. It rises, it falls, it changes with mood, time, and circumstance. Love, however, is not something that merely happens to us. It is something we choose again and again, even on days when the sensation is absent. Physical attraction is powerful because it speaks to the senses. It gives instant excitement, instant closeness, instant validation. But sensations are like waves in the ocean. They are beautiful, yet unstable. If a relationship is built only on waves, it will always be at the mercy of the tide. Some days the water is calm, some days it is rough, and some days it disappears completely. Love works differently. Love is more like a direction than a sensation. A direction does not change just because the road becomes difficult. It does not disappear because the weather is bad. When two people decide on a direction, they commit to walking together, even when the excitement fades, even when effort is required, even when patience is tested. This is where boundaries become essential. Without boundaries, relationships often rush forward, driven by feelings that feel urgent but are temporary. The speed creates intensity, but intensity is not the same as depth. Things move quickly, emotions feel strong, and yet the relationship remains fragile because it has not been guided by intention. Boundaries slow the movement just enough to allow clarity. They help people ask themselves, consciously and honestly, where they are going and why. They shift the relationship from what feels good right now to what is right for us in the long run. That shift transforms attraction into commitment and closeness into stability. When love becomes a direction, physical desire no longer controls the relationship, it supports it. Desire adds warmth, but direction gives purpose. Together, they create a relationship that does not just move fast, but moves forward, with awareness, respect, and strength. Every relationship is shaped by what we consistently nourish. Just like the body reflects what we eat every day, a relationship reflects what we feed it over time. Occasional effort does not define strength. Repeated focus does. What we give our attention to slowly becomes the foundation of the bond. When physical desire becomes the primary source of connection, it starts taking up most of the emotional space. Conversations become shorter, patience becomes thinner, and understanding takes a back seat. It is not because people stop caring, but because energy is limited. When too much energy flows in one direction, other areas are left unattended. Emotional connection needs time, presence, and listening. Trust needs consistency. Respect needs self-control. These qualities grow quietly and slowly, but they form the backbone of lasting relationships. If they are not fed regularly, they weaken, not suddenly, but gradually, often without notice. Boundaries act like a conscious decision about what deserves nourishment. They help people pause and ask whether their actions are strengthening the relationship or just satisfying a momentary urge. This pause creates awareness, and awareness creates choice. Instead of reacting to impulses, partners begin responding with intention. When trust is fed, partners feel safe. When respect is fed, partners feel valued. When communication is fed, misunderstandings lose their power. Physical closeness, when it grows from this soil, becomes more meaningful because it is supported by emotional depth rather than replacing it. What we feed grows stronger, and what we neglect weakens. Boundaries ensure that relationships are not built only on cravings, but on qualities that can survive change, challenges, and time. Desire is powerful because it gives an immediate sense of comfort and closeness. It makes people feel wanted, needed, and emotionally secure in the moment. But when desire is not guided by discipline, it slowly changes its role in the relationship. What begins as attraction can turn into dependence without being noticed. Dependency forms when physical closeness becomes the main source of emotional stability. Instead of feeling complete on their own, people begin relying on the relationship to regulate their moods, their confidence, and their sense of worth. The absence of the other person then creates anxiety rather than space, and distance feels like rejection instead of neutrality. This is where the line between love and attachment starts to blur. Love allows freedom, attachment demands presence. Love chooses, dependency clings. When discipline is missing, desire stops being an expression of connection and starts becoming a coping mechanism. The relationship then carries an unhealthy emotional weight it was never meant to hold. Boundaries introduce balance. They remind both individuals that while closeness is valuable, individuality is essential. Discipline in desire teaches self-regulation, the ability to feel attraction without being controlled by it. This self-control strengthens emotional maturity and creates a sense of inner stability. When two people are emotionally stable on their own, they come together out of choice, not need. Their connection becomes lighter, healthier, and more respectful. They enjoy closeness without fear of loss and distance without panic. Discipline does not suppress desire, it refines it. It ensures that desire remains a contributor to love, not a substitute for emotional security. Boundaries have a quiet power because they reveal what words often hide. Anyone can express attraction. Anyone can speak passionately. But when limits are set, reactions begin to tell the real story. Patience, respect, and understanding surface naturally, or they don't. When a person truly values another, boundaries are not seen as obstacles. They are seen as signals of self-respect. Such a person does not push, manipulate, or negotiate emotional comfort for personal gain. Instead, they slow down, listen, and adjust. This willingness to wait speaks louder than any declaration of interest. On the other hand, when intentions are driven mainly by desire, boundaries feel inconvenient. Frustration shows up, pressure increases, justifications replace understanding. What was once presented as affection starts feeling conditional. In these moments, boundaries quietly expose whether someone is interested in the person or only in the access. This clarity is not meant to judge, but to protect. Boundaries act like a filter, allowing sincerity to stay and insincerity to reveal itself. They create space where true intentions naturally rise to the surface without confrontation or conflict. In healthy connections, boundaries strengthen trust because both individuals feel seen and respected. They remove confusion and replace it with emotional safety. When intentions are clear, relationships move forward with confidence rather than doubt. Boundaries do not demand explanations. They simply exist, and in their presence truth becomes visible. True intimacy does not begin with physical closeness, it begins with emotional security. Before a person can truly open up, they must feel safe, safe to express thoughts, fears, boundaries, and vulnerabilities without the fear of being judged, pressured, or misunderstood. Without this sense of safety, closeness may exist, but intimacy remains shallow. When physical access comes before emotional understanding, the relationship often skips important stages of connection. People may feel close, yet strangely uncertain. They may share space, but not clarity. This imbalance creates confusion because the body feels involved while the heart is still unsure. Emotional safety grows through consistency. It grows when words align with actions, when promises are kept, and when respect is shown even in moments of disagreement. These experiences build trust slowly, but they build it strong. Without this foundation, physical closeness can intensify emotions that have not yet been properly understood. Boundaries ensure that emotional security is not rushed or replaced. They allow individuals to observe each other's character under normal circumstances, not just moments of attraction. They give space to understand values, communication styles, and emotional maturity. When emotional safety is established first, physical closeness becomes a natural extension of trust rather than a substitute for it. It no longer creates anxiety or attachment based on uncertainty. Instead, it deepens a connection that is already stable. Relationships thrive when people feel safe before they feel close. Boundaries protect this order, allowing intimacy to grow in a way that strengthens rather than confuses the bond. Many relationships do not collapse because there is no care or affection, but because everything happens too quickly. Speed creates excitement, and excitement feels like progress, but progress without stability often leads to exhaustion. When emotions move faster than understanding, cracks begin to form beneath the surface. Rushing into closeness leaves little room to observe, reflect, and evaluate. People get attached before they truly know each other. Small differences are overlooked, important conversations are postponed, and red flags are ignored in the name of intensity. What feels thrilling at the beginning slowly turns overwhelming. Slowing down is not a sign of hesitation. It is a sign of wisdom. It allows emotions to settle and reality to reveal itself. Boundaries create pauses where individuals can process their experiences instead of reacting to them. In these pauses, clarity replaces confusion. When relationships move at a measured pace, both people have time to align their expectations. They learn how the other handles stress, disagreement, and responsibility. These insights cannot be rushed, no matter how strong attraction feels. Breaking down often happens when a relationship carries more emotional weight than it is ready for. Boundaries prevent this overload. They ensure that each stage of connection is strong enough to support the next one. By slowing down, relationships gain resilience. They grow with awareness rather than urgency, making them far less likely to fall apart under pressure. When someone has no limits, their presence is often taken for granted. Constant availability may look like devotion, but over time it can quietly reduce value. Not because the person is less worthy, but because human nature often respects what is protected more than what is freely given without care. Respect grows when there is clarity about limits. Boundaries communicate self-worth without the need for explanation. They show that a person values their time, emotions, and body enough to protect them. This self-respect naturally invites others to behave with greater consideration. When availability is unlimited, effort often decreases. But when boundaries exist, effort increases. People become more thoughtful, more attentive, and more intentional. Respect is not demanded, it is inspired by the way someone treats themselves. Boundaries also prevent resentment. When individuals constantly give without limits, they may feel drained or unappreciated. Over time, this emotional imbalance damages the connection. Respectful distance, when needed, keeps relationships healthy and balanced. True attraction is not just about closeness, it is about admiration, and admiration grows when someone stands firmly in their values instead of bending to please. Boundaries create that quiet strength which deepens attraction beyond physical presence. Respect outlasts excitement, and relationships rooted in respect endure far longer than those built on constant access. Physical desire carries immense energy. It can bring warmth, closeness, and a deep sense of connection. But like any powerful force, it requires direction. Without guidance, strength turns into chaos, and what was meant to support a relationship can begin to control it. Desire, when left unchecked, often demands immediacy. It seeks satisfaction without considering timing, readiness, or consequences. This urgency can silence wisdom and overshadow emotional awareness. Decisions made in such moments may feel right instantly, but leave confusion or regret later. Boundaries act as a form of guidance, not restriction. They do not deny desire, they shape it. Just as a river flows beautifully when contained within its banks, desire becomes meaningful when it moves within healthy limits. Without banks, the same river floods and destroys what lies in its path. When desire is guided, it strengthens connection rather than overpowering it. It becomes an expression of care instead of a demand. It allows both individuals to feel seen, respected, and safe, rather than pressured or rushed. Guidance also creates sustainability. Relationships driven purely by intensity often burn bright and fade quickly. But when desire is balanced with patience and understanding, it becomes steady rather than consuming. Power is not meant to be eliminated, it is meant to be mastered. When physical desire is guided by boundaries, it transforms from a force of impulse into a force of purpose. Confusion often enters relationships not because people lack feelings, but because there are no clear limits. When boundaries are absent, expectations remain unspoken, intentions remain uncertain, and emotions begin to overlap without direction. This uncertainty creates anxiety, even in the presence of closeness. Without clarity, individuals start guessing instead of understanding. Simple actions are overanalyzed, silence feels threatening, and small changes trigger emotional reaction. The relationship becomes mentally exhausting because no one truly knows where they stand. Boundaries bring structure to connection. They clearly define what is acceptable, what is meaningful, and what requires time. This clarity removes the need for assumptions and replaces them with understanding. When both people know the framework of the relationship, emotional energy is used to grow, not to worry. Physical closeness without clarity can intensify attachment without providing security. It creates emotional depth without emotional direction. Boundaries prevent this imbalance by ensuring that feelings develop alongside understanding, not ahead of it. Clarity also builds trust. When expectations are clear, people feel safe expressing themselves honestly. There is less fear of misinterpretation and less emotional turbulence. Stability replaces uncertainty. Relationships flourish in clarity because clarity creates peace. Boundaries are the quiet force that turns emotional chaos into emotional confidence. Physical closeness often produces emotions that feel like love, but these emotions can be misleading if they are not supported by deeper understanding. The release of hormones and the excitement of touch can create a sense of attachment that seems strong, but it is temporary and sometimes superficial. It can trick the mind into believing that a bond is deeper than it really is. Love is not only about feeling, it is about choosing. It grows through shared experiences, mutual respect, consistent care, and alignment of values. These elements take time to cultivate, and they cannot be replaced by moments of intimacy alone. When physical desire becomes the primary measure of connection, the relationship risks being built on a foundation that is exciting but unstable. Attachment can develop quickly because of physical closeness, making the bond feel urgent and necessary. But love is measured by commitment and understanding, not by dependency or the intensity of attraction. A relationship that relies only on attachment lacks the resilience needed to withstand challenges, disagreements, and changes that are inevitable over time. Boundaries provide the space to distinguish attachment from genuine love. They allow individuals to slow down, observe, and understand each other's values, priorities, and character. By doing so, they ensure that closeness is earned, not assumed, and that the bond is strengthened by trust and intention rather than fleeting feelings. In this way, desire becomes a supporter of love, not a substitute for it. Physical intimacy, when integrated with emotional depth and understanding, enhances the connection rather than defining it, allowing love to grow steadily and endure beyond immediate attraction. Every choice made today carries the weight of tomorrow. The decisions we take in relationships, how we respond to desire, how we communicate, how we respect limits, shape the emotional health and stability of the future. Acting impulsively or without thought may feel harmless in the moment, but it often leaves unseen consequences that surface later. Boundaries serve as a compass, guiding actions in a way that aligns with long-term well-being. They encourage reflection before action, helping individuals consider whether their behavior nurtures the relationship or merely satisfies a temporary urge. By doing so, they protect both people from patterns that could lead to regret, misunderstanding, or emotional harm. When boundaries are observed, trust is strengthened. Each decision to respect limits communicates care for the other person's feelings and for the relationship itself. It creates a rhythm of intentionality where choices are made not out of reaction, but out of awareness and responsibility. Boundaries also provide a sense of consistency. Knowing that certain principles will be respected over time builds confidence and emotional security. People no longer fear that attraction alone will dictate the pace or direction of the relationship, because there is a framework that supports growth and maturity. Ultimately, the decisions shaped by boundaries protect not just the present, but the future. They ensure that actions today contribute to a relationship that is resilient, balanced, and capable of withstanding the challenges that life inevitably brings. Self-control is one of the quietest expressions of love, yet it is also one of the strongest. Choosing to pause before acting on every impulse shows respect not only for oneself, but also for the other person and for the relationship as a whole. It demonstrates the ability to act with intention rather than being driven solely by momentary desire. When boundaries are honored, self-control becomes a daily practice. It allows individuals to consider the long-term impact of their choices rather than seeking immediate gratification. This discipline teaches patience, teaches understanding, and teaches how to prioritize connection over convenience. Desire remains present, but it is guided by purpose rather than urgency. Exercising self-control also strengthens trust. When one person shows restraint, it signals reliability and emotional maturity. It reassures the other that the relationship is not fragile or subject to the whims of fleeting emotion. It creates a sense of safety where both individuals can grow and connect without fear of being overwhelmed or rushed. Furthermore, self-control cultivates deeper appreciation. When physical closeness or emotional intimacy is approached thoughtfully, it gains meaning. The moments of connection become richer because they are earned, chosen, and mutually respected. True love, therefore, is not the absence of desire, but the ability to navigate it with care. Choosing restraint is an act of courage, a conscious commitment to honor both oneself and the relationship, and a silent affirmation that the bond is valued above temporary impulses. Touch can create a sense of closeness, but it cannot replace the deeper foundation that trust provides. True intimacy begins with knowing that the other person will be there, that they will honor your feelings, and that they will act consistently even when no one is watching. Trust is earned slowly, through repeated experiences that demonstrate reliability, honesty, and care. When physical closeness comes before trust, emotions can become tangled. The heart may feel connected, but the mind remains uncertain. Questions arise. Do they really understand me? Can I rely on them? Will they respect me even when I am vulnerable? Without answers to these questions, attachment can form based on excitement rather than understanding, creating fragility beneath apparent closeness. Boundaries help create the space needed for trust to grow naturally. They prevent actions that may give temporary comfort but bypass emotional preparation. By allowing time for consistent communication, shared experiences, and mutual understanding, boundaries make sure that connection develops on a stable foundation rather than on impulse alone. Trust also allows individuals to feel secure in both presence and absence. When a relationship is grounded in trust first, physical intimacy becomes an extension of safety and emotional closeness. It is no longer a test or a substitute for connection, but a celebration of a bond that is already strong. In this way, relationships guided by trust before touch grow with resilience. They survive challenges, navigate uncertainty, and deepen over time because the foundation is based not on fleeting sensation, but on certainty and understanding. When someone truly cares, they do not try to rush or bypass limits. They understand that meaningful connection cannot be forced or accelerated. Respecting boundaries is not a test. It is a reflection of genuine interest and patience. Those who honor limits show that their attention is on the person as a whole, not merely on immediate gratification or temporary closeness. People who disregard boundaries often reveal their priorities through impatience, insistence, or subtle pressure. The presence of such behavior highlights whether the focus is on the relationship itself or on fulfilling personal desires. In contrast, someone who waits, listens, and respects boundaries demonstrates commitment to understanding and valuing the other person fully. Boundaries act as a natural filter. They do not push away those who belong in the relationship. Instead, they reveal intentions clearly. The right person will see boundaries not as obstacles, but as signals of self-respect and care. They will respond with thoughtfulness, patience, and willingness to invest in the growth of the relationship. By respecting limits, the connection gains depth. Both individuals can develop trust, explore emotional intimacy, and build a partnership that is resilient. The right person's respect for boundaries is not just a sign of patience. It is a measure of sincerity, showing that the relationship is chosen with awareness rather than convenience or desire alone. In this way, boundaries do not separate, they clarify. They ensure that closeness develops with integrity and that the people involved are truly aligned in values, intentions, and mutual respect. What is easily given is often easily overlooked. When access to physical closeness or emotional attention is unrestricted, it can lose significance over time. The things that are freely available can become ordinary, and the effort or intention behind them may go unnoticed. In contrast, when intimacy is approached thoughtfully and with respect, it gains weight and meaning. Boundaries create the conditions for appreciation to grow. When closeness is earned rather than assumed, every shared moment carries intention, presence, and value. This does not mean withholding affection to manipulate feelings, but rather cultivating an environment where connection is consciously nurtured and treasured. Earning intimacy also strengthens emotional bonds. Both individuals are engaged in mutual care, awareness, and respect, and this shared effort builds a deeper sense of partnership. Each step in the relationship becomes deliberate, creating a rhythm where connection grows steadily rather than impulsively. Furthermore, when intimacy is valued and approached with patience, it teaches mindfulness. Individuals learn to recognize the difference between fleeting attraction and meaningful attachment. They learn to invest in emotional understanding, communication, and trust, which are the pillars of lasting relationships. Through this process, physical closeness becomes more than a source of pleasure. It transforms into a language of care, gratitude, and mutual respect. Boundaries ensure that intimacy is not rushed, trivialized, or taken for granted, allowing relationships to develop richness, depth, and endurance that go far beyond the immediate moment. When physical desire becomes the center of a relationship, interactions can start to feel transactional. One person gives attention, affection, or closeness, and the other receives it. Over time, the bond shifts from being about mutual care to being about fulfilling needs, and the relationship can lose its sense of balance and purpose. Love is not about taking, it is about giving. Giving time, patience, understanding, and presence creates a foundation that sustains connection beyond moments of attraction. When individuals focus on contributing to the emotional and personal growth of each other, desire becomes a natural part of the exchange rather than the sole driver. Boundaries reinforce this principle by reminding both people that the relationship is not just about satisfying impulses. They encourage conscious decisions to nurture the bond through acts of kindness, listening, and support. These small, consistent efforts build depth, trust, and stability. Relationships guided by giving rather than taking also cultivate gratitude and respect. Each person begins to appreciate the other's efforts and presence, rather than expecting constant reinforcement of desire. This dynamic shifts connection from dependency to partnership, where both individuals contribute equally to the growth of the bond. By prioritizing giving over taking, relationships transform desire from a fleeting, self-centered force into a channel for love, care, and mutual enrichment. Boundaries ensure that this transformation is intentional, creating a relationship that is resilient, meaningful, and enduring. Emotions in relationships are powerful, but they are also fragile. Without limits, they can swing wildly between excitement and despair, joy and frustration, closeness and conflict. One moment feels perfect, the next overwhelming. Such instability can slowly erode the foundation of even the strongest connection. Boundaries act as a stabilizing force. They create a framework within which emotions can be expressed safely, without overwhelming either person. By defining what is acceptable, what needs space, and what requires patience, boundaries help prevent impulsive reactions that might damage trust or create unnecessary tension. Emotional balance also allows individuals to respond thoughtfully rather than react instinctively. When feelings are intense, a pause guided by boundaries gives clarity. People learn to communicate with care, to listen with understanding, and to approach conflicts with solutions instead of blame. This steadiness strengthens both the bond and the individual emotional health of each partner. Stable emotions cultivate deeper connection. When highs are celebrated without exaggeration and lows are navigated without panic, the relationship develops resilience. Boundaries protect this balance by reminding individuals to act consciously, preserving harmony while still honoring their feelings. By creating consistency in emotional expression, boundaries allow love to grow in a measured, sustainable way. They prevent chaos from dominating closeness and ensure that passion and care coexist with calm and respect, forming a relationship that can endure the inevitable challenges of life. Physical intimacy is a form of communication, a language that expresses closeness, trust, and affection. But like any language, it has grammar, structure, and context. Without understanding the rules, even the right gestures can be misinterpreted or cause unintended harm. Acting without preparation or awareness can lead to confusion, resentment, or emotional imbalance. Boundaries provide the framework needed to learn this language thoughtfully. They create space for both individuals to understand each other's comfort levels, desires, and needs before moving forward. By observing limits, partners develop sensitivity and attunement, learning how to express affection in ways that are meaningful, safe, and mutually enriching. When physical intimacy is approached with awareness, it becomes an extension of emotional connection rather than a replacement for it. It communicates care, respect, and shared trust. Without boundaries, touch can feel impulsive, ungrounded, or disconnected from the deeper emotional bond, leading to confusion about intentions and feelings. Boundaries also encourage reflection. They allow both people to pause and ask whether closeness is being shared with thoughtfulness and intention, rather than simply acting on desire or habit. This reflection ensures that intimacy deepens naturally, aligned with emotional understanding and mutual respect. By learning the grammar of physical connection, relationships gain depth and clarity. Touch becomes a meaningful dialogue rather than a fleeting impulse, and intimacy grows as a conscious, shared experience that strengthens both trust and emotional closeness. Boundaries make it possible for this language to be spoken fluently, beautifully, and safely. Physical intimacy is often the most visible and celebrated part of a relationship. Like a flower in full bloom, it draws attention, brings pleasure, and creates moments of connection that are memorable and intense. Yet, the beauty of a flower depends entirely on the strength and depth of its roots, which remain hidden beneath the surface. These roots represent trust, respect, shared values, and emotional understanding, the elements that truly sustain a relationship. Without strong roots, the most beautiful moments of connection are fragile. They can wither under pressure, fade with time, or be easily uprooted by misunderstandings. Physical closeness alone cannot carry a relationship through challenges or provide stability when external stresses arise. It may create temporary happiness, but it cannot guarantee lasting fulfillment. Boundaries act like gardeners tending to the roots. They ensure that the foundations of the relationship are nourished before the visible aspects are enjoyed. By protecting emotional safety, encouraging patience, and promoting consistent care, boundaries allow the roots to grow deep and strong. Only then can the flower of intimacy bloom fully and sustainably. When both partners invest in nurturing the unseen foundation, physical connection gains meaning and permanence. Every moment of closeness is supported by trust and understanding, making it richer, more satisfying, and resilient. The relationship becomes capable of withstanding challenges, growing together through time, and creating a bond that is not merely fleeting, but enduring. In this way, the strength of the roots ensures that the beauty above ground, the physical and emotional closeness, thrives with stability, depth, and purpose, transforming fleeting moments into a lifelong connection. Anyone can be swept away by desire. It is natural, immediate, and powerful, but desire alone cannot sustain a relationship. Without guidance, intention, and care, it can lead to misunderstandings, hurt, and instability. Lasting love requires more than attraction. It requires protection, wisdom, and conscious effort. Boundaries are the quiet guardians of love. They do not restrict passion, they shape it. They create space for reflection, patience, and understanding, ensuring that emotions and actions align with values rather than fleeting impulses. By respecting limits, both individuals demonstrate care not only for each other, but also for the relationship itself. Protecting love with boundaries allows intimacy to deepen naturally. Physical closeness becomes meaningful because it is earned and chosen, not assumed or demanded. Emotional connection grows stronger because trust, respect, and communication are prioritized alongside attraction. Each interaction becomes intentional, reinforcing the bond rather than leaving it vulnerable to the unpredictability of desire alone. Love that is protected is love that endures. It withstands challenges, navigates differences, and survives the pressures of time because it is rooted in understanding, intention, and mutual respect. Boundaries transform desire from a potentially fleeting force into a sustaining energy that supports growth, connection, and lasting commitment. Ultimately, relationships thrive when care is paired with wisdom. By honoring limits and approaching desire with consciousness, love becomes more than a feeling. It becomes a living, resilient bond that nurtures both individuals and allows them to grow together with depth, purpose, and stability. A relationship guided by boundaries is not a relationship of restriction, but of respect, care, and intentionality. Desire, when approached with wisdom, becomes a source of connection rather than a driver of impulsive choices. By protecting love with patience, understanding, and conscious effort, we allow it to grow steadily, deeply, and enduringly. In the end, the strongest relationships are not those built on fleeting moments of passion, but on the quiet strength of trust, the richness of emotional understanding, and the courage to honor both ourselves and each other. When desire is guided and boundaries are respected, love does not just happen, it thrives.